this morning, and he said, you know what, it's okay that I've had to wake up with you today because it's important that we have conversations around some of these things. We're coming into another edition of Game Plan 2027. The Professor Naituli, the Professor Gitile Naituli is here with us this morning. He's a former NCIC commissioner, interestingly enough, and a fellow Kenya National Academy of Science, and he joins us this morning. Prof, good morning.
Morning.
Karibu sana. Thank you for being in the Situation Room with us today.
Asante.
Karibu. Before we get into it, because there's a lot, there are claims of rigging, there are claims of people who are tribal, I don't know. It's a little bit of a mess already. But is it a smokescreen for something else? We'll get into that properly. But Dennis this week takes us to the Gambia.
Yes, the Gambia. It's a small country with a population of around 2.8 million people. Now, in Kenya, we have the Big Five. In Gambia, they have over 600 species of birds. So bird watching is famous in the Gambia. But another thing that stands out is the fact that if you look at the world right now, when we talk about elections, it's always paper ballots, right? But in the Gambia, they use glass pebbles to select their leaders, including the president. Glass pebbles, traditional way of doing things, and that is what the IEBC deal with, you know. But let's go to the proverb this morning. The proverb: a fly has no one to advise it. It follows the corpse to the grave.
Wow.
How would you interpret it?
I like that one. I think it's interesting because we have a similar saying where I come from. They say, Moado Kirera, the person you advise is already advised himself. In other words, you can't advise a fool. This is why this fly is following the corpse
to the grave.
Because even if you don't, they don't seriously smell the corpse and follow it there. This is very important for us today, actually. It's an important one. Because all what she started by enumerating what we are doing now, that is the fly. Moving slowly.
Towards the grave.
Towards the grave with the corpse.
Well said, Prof. Asante sana.
Yeah.
I want to start with the tribal rhetoric and the conversation that we have been having over the last couple of days. And there are folks who say, no, don't talk about it, because if you talk about it, you're going to fan the flames. But I think that that's where the danger lies, that you don't speak about it, and so it creeps upon you, and that you don't address the issue. And I likened it to a puppy that you pick up on the road thinking that it's stray, and then you bring it into your home, and then you feed it and you bathe it and you care for it, and then you find out later that it is actually a hyena, but it has already grown, and at that point when it is attacking you is when you think that you want to get rid of it. The undertones of tribalism. Whereas I don't think that there's anything wrong with anybody identifying with their tribe, where they're from, that there's hate that has been created on that very same thing, and that Kenyans don't hate each other on tribe. They don't. I don't think so. But that there's a small group of people who want to use it to then continually separate people. How do you deal with this issue? You sat on the NCIC. We have now a newly constituted NCIC, who folks are already accusing of sitting on the fence when it comes to dealing with these things. But things are said in public, and then they're quickly retracted by an apology, which everybody's supposed to accept. But it doesn't run away from people's minds. We're going to talk about a lot of things come Game Plan 2027, but this is one of them that's sticking out like a sore thumb. Is it possible to deal with this thing once and for all, or do we continually talk about it in order to keep it at bay?
Let me start by saying that it's possible to deal with it. Because the people propagate tribal hate. First of all, they're extremely few, and they're the political class. These are the same people basically stealing from you and using the tribe as a cover. They are extremely inefficient. There are people who have to hide their incompetence behind the tribe. But what you said in the beginning, that some people don't want you to talk about it, that is very wrong. You must talk about it. Because it's by talking about it that we can actually expose the hypocrisy behind the tribe. You see, mainly, just to be clear, it is the people who have been propagating this is the UNDA, it's the UNDA brigade, who have now been followed by sections of ODM, the one now which is in the government. Now, if you remember, these are the same people who fanned the fires in 2007. It's exactly the same people. What is unfortunate is none of them was actually held to account, and that is why we must deal with impunity. I said it's possible to deal with this, because if we can address impunity, then we can deal with this with the finality. Now, what is happening though here right now is much more dangerous, because that time they didn't have power. Now they have power. Now they can actually bring the whole house down. You know, there was last week a story going around about the donkey, which a man bought a donkey for the first time, and he was really happy about it. And he never wanted his donkey to get lost in the village. So he put it on top of his roof. And he showed the donkey all the streets in the town, so that in the event is lost, he can know how to come back. But then it came time now to say, okay, you have seen everything, now let's go down. The dog is in the Apana. I'd rather stay here. This place looks very nice. So the more he persuaded, the more the dog started disturbing in the house. And he kicked him. And the fellow realized, hey, wait a minute, this donkey is actually going to crash this house with my children inside. So he rushed down, he left the dog up there. He barely removed his family before the donkey, not the dog, before the donkey collapsed the house, and the donkey was also killed in the process of collapsing the house. Now, we need to prevent these people from collapsing the Kenyan house. Because we put them there, and they don't know it is clever actually to get down. Because you can always climb again, I guess.
Yes.
So the tribal, beating the tribal drums is not a very intelligent thing. For example, let's take Hassan, Homari, who was lambasting the Gikoyos in Coast with the president there, I think the deputy president, and none of them kind of said, remember this is Secretary General of the ruling party speaking. But you see, what we don't know is the trouble with that kind of behavior. The tribe with propagating hate, it can boomerang on you. This guy can end up waking up the Mijigenda. They suddenly realize, oh, this guy is an Arab. He's claiming to be speaking for Coast people, whatever he's speaking for. But my friend, you are an Arab and you are sitting on our land for many years. You understand that? So you don't walk that path, because usually it's a difficult one. And you can take an example from Russia, Vladimir Putin's Russia. When he invaded Ukraine, he told us it was supposed to last for 3 days or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Now it's 4 years. The one going on. So you can start a problem. You can initiate it. But trust me, it will not work the way that is the way you planned it. That's why the path of peace is always the nicest one. Now, when you look at the country, though, why I know for sure these people will fail. Because first, they are failed in leadership. They are failed in governance. That is why they are reaching out to the only playing book of tribal games, which now have been overtaken by events. If you take this country to 2007, you realize that violence, of course, was cooked for some time. It didn't start in 2007. It started in 2005. Then it built up because people refused to do what you just said. They refused to talk about it in 2005. And they talked about it in 2005. I don't believe it would have taken place in 2007. That's why we really must talk about it. Now, 2007, the Kenya of 2007, my friend, is not the Kenya of 2026. 2007, the violence was more or less limited in Rift Valley. because among the Kikuyu and the Kalenjins.
So what we saw in Nairobi was
then,
nothing compared to what was happening on the other side.
No. What we saw, what was happening in the valley was really bad. I mean, that was close to a war, basically. But why they're so different now is in the last 20 years, we have intermarried, we have started businesses together, we have integrated nearly 30 to 40%. Now, if you start that foolishness of 207 thinking that you are limiting to a certain place, you will end up affecting the entire country easily, because you have to look. Let's take a casual look at Kiambu, for example. 20% or 25% of the Kiambu population now is Luo. So when Galoma talks on Bandi and disputes hate against these Giguyos are living with the people you claim to be, you are claiming it to be arguing for. Okay, when I go home now, 207, I can tell you, identifying the Kalenjin in Nairobi. There were very few. You find probably zero in Imero. When I go there now, I find them washing cars. I find them having saloons. So, in fact, some are even married.
They started businesses, essentially.
Starting business together.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm telling you, the country has become integrated. You can't isolate a single community in Kenya. You can't declare war on any community in Kenya without actually declaring war on Kenya. That is how these people need to think. They need to think very carefully.
So Kenyans are not... The Kenyans are from tribes, but Kenyans are not tribal.
Kenyans have never been tribal.
Okay.
And this is, you see, the tribal is the political class. We actually did the research at the NCIC when I was there to find out, one way where you find out whether people are really tribal is whether we trust one another or not. One of the parameters. There were several parameters. Now, we selected what is called the cosmopolitan counties. Like Busia, Migori, Isiolo, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kajiado. So we're asking people, if you move to Kajiado today or to Nairobi, when you want to look for an apartment, do you first go to find out who lives there before you can rent? No. These Kenyans, you are looking for an apartment to get an apartment. The space you rent and occupy because you trust whoever will be there, will be another Kenyan like you, is not have to belong to your tribe. You trust that. So by and large, we trust each other. We work to each other every day. We live together every day. The politicians, to protect themselves from oppressing all of us. Because, you can't tell me today that President Ruto is paying for Kalenjins who have a car. He's not. You understand? You can't tell me when you go to the supermarket, you will find on this side belong to you, the things are cheaper, and this side the things are more expensive for all of us. It doesn't. So, but they're brilliant, okay? They will tell you to protect themselves. They will reach out to your tribe and they tell you that tribe has done this tribe has done that to us. Now, they are able to actually incite very few people. Majority will be victims from that community itself, from where the leader comes from. Majority will be victims. Because obviously the people they incite, they will pay them. They have created enough misery. Some people are willing to be paid. But after 2007 also, there was a few NGOs which came around. In fact, I started one of them. It's called the Center for Transformational Leadership. The idea, which I had in mind and which surprisingly was funded, I told them I will not ask the young people not to attack or burden and burn their houses or whatever. I just ask them to respect themselves and ask for a better pay. If you are going to be hired to kill somebody, at least ask for $1 million. Respect yourself. Don't do it for 500 shillings. And that would mean that they will be unable to hire anyone. Okay? When the people now set up respect themselves. So I don't believe these people will succeed in spewing tribal hatred. today, because this Kenya is fundamentally different from Kenya of 2007.
Yet, Prof, we still see the political class funding these tribal hatred. As much as you say that Kenyans are not tribal, it is the political class that is. You look at someone like Hassan Omar. He's an advocate of the High Court. He has served at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. His background is from the civil rights, fighting for the rights of wananchi. Is it that once someone gets to power or to politics, you forget who you are? Why is tribal hate a currency in politics in Kenya of today?
Actually, you just have to look at the character of the person you just described. There were allegations that he was actually causing witnesses against Ruto and the other people. You understand? If you go to causing witnesses, you are not an honest person because you are you are lying now. You are using your office to lie about a person. You remember those allegations he was having?
Yes.
So it could mean that his work within the Human Rights Commission was never genuine. He was pursuing personal agendas, because you see, when he worked with the human rights, that's an indication, the fact that there was allegations of him creating fictitious weaknesses. Then later, allegations of him selling the same people. You understand what I mean? You remember those allegations? Exposing them to danger because he knew where they are and so on. So when those allegations are made against you, you are not a good person. And you can see when he was talking, he actually meant what he was saying. Because you can look at the emotions and the body language. You can see that. That's why I'm saying you need to completely and totally reject his apology. He must resign as UNDA Secretary General, because UNDA is the ruling party.
Yes.
And usually the Secretary General speaks for the party.
Yes.
So he has to resign. He cannot he can't just apologize.
But if you're saying that, and he speaks for the party, then those sentiments that he made, he did not make on his own.
No, he didn't.
Would you then say that he made those statements on behalf of the party, if that's what you're saying?
Exactly, because you see, our problem as a people also is to begin lying to ourselves. Listen, the end of his party was there.
Yes.
The deputy president was there.
Yes.
They spoke the last. Didn't they castigate him? Didn't they even mention what he said? So let's be honest. If you wanted to protect this country, and that means protecting ourselves, we need to face these things honestly. Some of these people are verbalizing what they speak in secret. Do you understand? When the cameras are not there, and then they now go to the public and they say it. So, in my opinion, when you speak like that, the way Hassan spoke, with the head of state sitting next there, with the deputy president there, that's a serious indictment against the UNDA as a party and the Kenyan government.
What would then agencies mandated to handle such things do? What would be the movements that we should be seeing from president, from the police, from DCI, from Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, as well as NCIC? What should Kenyans be seeing?
Immediately after that fellow stopped speaking, NCIC should have gone to the CNN in Mombasa to apprehend him immediately, because there was nothing to investigate. So is the ethics and the anti-corruption. Right now they should be trying to figure out how to get him out of the head office he's holding at the East African community. And also out of the Secretary General.
Position.
So ethics should be on him. NCIC should be on him. The CID should be on him, because that was incitement capable of being implemented, which is an offense under the penal code. You understand? So this is the problem now when the country is collapsing. When the country is collapsing, you are afraid as an officer of the law from executing the mandate of your office, because you need to feed your children.
You need to have a legacy.
So you see something like that, and you say, "Oh, this is what is a government policy. I don't want to burn my hands."
Okay, so that's interesting, because the president recently has been saying, "Watu wana leta, wanaongea mambo ya ubaguzi na ukabila. In that position, when he was there, would it have been so crazy to expect the president to stand up and say, actually, you know what, this is not the position that we should be taking? Or do we see that, maybe it was too formal an occasion for him to then be able to do that?
No, that is the guy.
Because would you then not be endorsing that position by silence?
By silence, we're endorsing it. You see, that's the perfect place for the president as the symbol of national unity, as the father of the nation. The president owns a very unique position in the republic. He is the peacemaker. He is the conciliator. He is the chief conciliator. Even when we quarrel, he is the one who's supposed to bring us together. That was the perfect opportunity to come and tell him, Wanasan, we don't talk like that anywhere in this country. Okay? And therefore, what you just said, you didn't speak for the party. In fact, he could even now have convened the national delegate to remove him immediately. That would have sent a fantastic message for the country. But you see, now when nobody mentioned, even when they talked, none of them mentioned it. That was wrong. And, what I'm telling you is it appears to me the country has moved and left the leaders behind. Okay? The leaders are still caught up in the tribal web. But the citizens are moved. They have moved and they have left it there. Because that kind of hatred I saw, emotional mobilization in Hassan Omar, trust me, it's not with a lot of Kenyans.
There were answers that reverberated across the country in response to that, whether it was people who then were in their rallies or people who had an opportunity to speak to the public thereafter, had a word to say, whether we're talking about coming from, Machakos governor, also here in Nairobi. We saw, people all over social media saying, well, we cannot be divided along these lines anymore. And that it is a very dangerous precedent to be set if that's where we're going. The member of parliament for Nyali, who essentially is a gubernatorial aspirant from Mombasa, all of these people came out to say, can you trust the words that came in answer to that statement, or is it being used as a political tool as well? Because we've kind of put the blanket on everybody here in the political sphere and be saying, a lot of these people use these things for political mileage. But can you trust the response to those sentiments when people say we cannot? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I know where you're going with it. And I think we can trust it because I think we don't have a meter to measure their honesty. But you see, when a minister, like an internal security minister, try to twist a normal demonstration against, it wasn't even a demonstration, is it called a strike or something, when he withdraw service against the fuel prices, and he wanted to shift that to the Gikuyu. Then you realize the country is in trouble. You see, you realize the country is in trouble because the Minister for Internal Security is a very serious person. But also, when the leaders in this government speak and they say, wale wa kabila, you see, if one person is a tribalist, please tell us about that one person. You can't tell us about the whole lot of them because the whole lot of them, I don't know where they get this idea, because I can tell you this as a researcher and as a scholar. If there is a community in this country which is not tribal, it is the Gikuyu community. And the way I know that is because I visit the establishment. I go to neighbors to shop. It's a Gikuyu business. You will find all the Kenya there. You walk to the nearest bar here in Nairobi or the nearest hotel, you don't find the Kikuyus working there. You find the entire country. You stop in the nearest eating place in Murang'a or Onyeri, you will find the whole country working there. So I don't know where these people get the idea to speak in plural. Okay? Because speaking in plural, he indict every single Kikuyu. If there is one Kikuyu who is a tribal, please tell us about that one. And it goes the same thing for Luo, same thing for Kalenjin. Just Ndiru with the person. don't collectively bring the entire community. Because when you do that now, that is called demonizing now. In fact, now you're in a violation of very many laws. Okay, and I think what we need to do in the future is to hold everybody to account, even those protected by the law when they leave. Because I think this idea or this carelessness, we have cultivated it since independence. We let you commit crimes, and somehow we think by holding you to account, your tribe will be incited. Let's incite, hold you to account, let them get incited, we deal with it. Because allowing this thing to go forever, even the corruption, why it has become a national religion, is because you steal, when you go, you retire in happiness. People should now die in prison when they have robbed us or when they have incited us against one another.
Okay. There are interesting. I mean, we always draw parallels to this. Felician Kabuga passed away a few months ago. He, in the Rwandan genocide, did not actually raise a weapon and kill anyone, but he is alleged to have incited a lot of the violence that took place, whether it was the rape and murder of men and women, whether it was, butchering of people, because he is alleged to have put money behind this. He's alleged to have put money behind journalists who went on air and talked about stamping out people like flies. The world was looking for him at some point, and he hid like a rat for many, many years. So he didn't actually do anything, but that there were bodies that said, you know what, he's responsible for this because of the words that he said, because of the money that he spent, and because of the company that he kept. Probably one of the most famous cases that came as a result of that. He'll never face justice because, now he's dead, right? But the thing is here that there is a body in Kenya that is responsible for kind of corralling people around comporting themselves in a proper way. And that's the NCIC, which you were a commissioner on. And for the longest time, the NCIC has been called a toothless dog. He can bark, but no bite. That why do we never see that they are the ones who should ensure that the things that are being said in the political arena then are done so with care? Because then what you do is that you curtail, or that you put a stop to the possibility of what happened in Rwanda. And we can think that, that was a big deal, but it only takes a spark. It started with a small idea, and then it ended up in 800,000 people dying by the hand of another man. So we can say, there's no comparison. Well, when it started in Rwanda, there was no comparison. It was two people having a conversation, and here we are. So now, the question is, when these things are said, when they are done, and we look at them and say, it was just somebody on a Saturday behind a microphone saying something means no big deal. Where is the NCIC and their position beyond reprimanding, beyond... what is that famous word? Recommending and investigating to say, excuse me, park it and let's do this thing properly?
Yes. That this example of the fellow you are saying he did a lot. You remember, I think it's somewhere in the Bible, there is a definition of a sin. If you see, you see, and then you think in your mind.
You have already committed.
You have already committed. So the worst people are not probably the foot soldiers, are the ones who organize the foot soldiers. Now, so these politicians are deadly. They are dangerous for the country. And the people, always trust me, who create problem for a country or for other people are weak leaders. When a leader is weak, we will create trouble for the country. So where is NTIC and other institutions? Institutions are as good as the people manning them. What we have been doing over time is eroding the power of those institutions by having people unequally find to own the positions in the institutions. Then now the whole gratitude to the appointing authority because they were not qualified to own the possession. They are happy to have the job and they are grateful for whoever gave that job. Now, the person who gave that job happens to be the one committing the crimes we are discussing here. They won't go after the person.
Obviously.
Yes, and this is the problem. This is too what you see with the NBC also. Because the NBC shouldn't disbar people who, like those shouting about boycotting elections. That is actually both incitement, it's a crime.
We're going to come to that in a minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, please carry on.
So, so now, again, you remember the way they were recruited. It was very opaque.
Yes.
You remember this paper describing who brought who.
Yes.
Okay? So they were not independent Kenyans brought there by sheer qualification. You understand? Because then you can stand your ground.
Yeah.
But when you are vacant, okay, you are going to struggle to exercise the mandate of that office.
Yeah.
That is what is happening with these institutions. Now, to be fair to the current government, it did not actually start with William Ruto. It started with William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, or Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. It is now, basically, it has become worse now because we are getting less and less qualified people under this administration than the other one. But the principle was the same. How loyal are you and who has brought you? That is a very wrong way of manning independent institutions. Remember the framers of the Constitution. What the idea they were having with independent commissions under Chapter 15 was in case Parliament fails, because Parliament is also to assist us to hold the lawbreakers to account. So if Parliament fails the country, if the judiciary too fails the country, they created for the arm of government in the independent commissions. They intended the independent commissions to actually be independent and they just work the way we expect the judiciary and the parliament to work. But that did not happen because they didn't see the angle. The recruitment process, which they never figured out because you see, it's not brilliant if you want an independent IMBC, for example, to allow the president to form the commission which now recruit.
the commission.
When he is a participant
in the election.
In the election. That was not very clever. You understand? So they missed a few things. They gave us a very good constitution. But because you are talking about sovereignty of the people under Article 1, and you are creating the institution to guarantee that is sovereignty, the president should have been removed from nominating the panel, which is supposed to recruit. And that panel should have been so independent that when they recruit the 6 people, the president has no choice but to appoint 36 people. 36 people.
I mean, Prof, you raise very critical issues here because we look at a political class that is hell-bent at protecting its expediency. Why do I say that? Because you find that the ruling party has a hand in everybody who's serving somewhere.
Yeah.
So everybody is serving at the behest of the someone who signs your check, pretty much. That means that as Kenyans, I come back to Kenyans, that it is critical then that Kenyans vote in the right people. Why? Because we had a conversation here yesterday, and it is true, Kenyans today, if you ask them who is a bad leader, they will tell you who a bad leader is. Yeah. You ask Kenyans who a good leader is, they'll tell you, this one is a good leader that we can trust. But at the election day, we see things take a different turn. So then, in terms of all these changing, must we start discussing on how to change how we do business, amending the constitution perhaps, so that the independence that we talk about emanates from the people? The president has no hand in selecting an independent body that is working with him hand in hand.
Well, we don't need to really amend the constitution. All we need is to bring the consciousness of the Kenyans to the level. I can tell you there is a community with actually fairly high consciousness in this country. The Kikuyus we love to demonize.
Yeah.
They are very good at holding their leaders to account. you don't have people there who have served 3 or 4 terms in the parliament, because they look at your performance. And when you don't perform, they just kick you out in the next election. They want you to account. All the country has to do is to learn to account. Now, there are situations where people want to refuse being held to account, because for me, when Murkumani was talking, that's what I saw. I saw somebody running away from accountability. When he started that with the Inspector General of Police and the other people around him, I saw somebody running away. So what we have to do is to make this country very stubborn. To make, first you lift the consciousness of the people to understand that those people are their employees. And they can fire them every 5 years. And I can tell you it's going to happen in the next election. You see, the country slept also through a very crucial part in this electoral process. The crucial part was not following Article 138, it's about Article 2, which is very clear that when 2 people are nominated for the president, then election is held in each constituency. Okay? And then, of course, if you look at Article 86C, it buttresses that. The idea is that Nairobi is irrelevant. Okay? Nairobi can give you power which you did not get from the people. Because the polling station is final. If you look at Article 86 and the minor gain judgment. The place where the resort of polling stations are brought together, the constituent center is also final, because that is the nearest to the voice of the voter. That has not been implemented. Giving these fellows in Nairobi power they don't have from the law. Okay? So, remember this Hussein Marijan, he told Citizen on an interview on Citizen TV that only the chairman had access to the computer where those resorted from, they were coming. But will that happen at the Constituent Telling Center? The governor is there, the MCA is there, the woman rep is there, and I'm talking about their representatives. Because the law allows you to have your representative, the party to have is a representative and so on.
Agents,
And then there is all these observers there. As the polling stations resort are being pulled together into one number. So what you have when that happens, and I know that Omutata has filed a case in court to enforce that. What shocked me is MBC has actually contested that case because it's European transparency. I don't know, when the law requires you to be transparent, I don't know how you can go and contest that possibility. So what has happened here is the country is asserting itself eventually in selecting their leaders. The truth of we have gone low in the leader choice because the corruption was not addressed early enough. It became too much, and we ended up now allowing people to corrupt the voters. You see, we have a law on expenditure in elections. And IMBC has not implemented that law.
Why would? Because the examples that you've given, and it stems from what we're talking about here, that the law, as clear as it always said to be, is that it prescribes, it's prescriptive in nature and says you must do this in order to achieve this result. It is not a suggestion.
No.
Though Dennis Aseto will tell you that people have taken it as a suggestion and that's why we have the behavior that we see. But it is clear and it says that you must do this. And in the event that it is not clear, that is why you have the judicial system whereby judicial officers pronounce themselves based on their interpretation and say, from now henceforth, you then will do this. Maina Kiai, and then they went and said, the result at the polling station is final. But it seems to me that it is the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why we look at the headline and it says impunity, because an officer of the county should then be able to pay people but he chooses not to. But then further to that says, even if the law says one thing and a court has pronounced themselves over my arrest, you cannot arrest me.
The system protects me.
The system has protected me. It is the same principle that says IEBC should not spend a certain amount of money, but we're not going to implement that because why should we?
Exactly.
It is the same principle that says you cannot stand up as a politician and make remarks that will incite people onto violence or hate. But again, it's ignored. It's the same thing where commissioners themselves pronounce themselves over certain things and say, vote and go home. But they themselves remain at the polling station. What are we doing? It seems that everywhere you look. So there is not just, it's like the law in this case is not even just a suggestion, because at least a suggestion you will see it's under the table, it's been buried in the ground.
I like the language you have used. Neither the constitution provisions nor the written law is actually a suggestion. It's mandatory. We have to live by it. That's why they take that oath to uphold and defend.
Yes.
You understand? So it's up to the citizen now to insist, like the coming election. Given the noise about rigging, which is clearly illegal, the citizens must insist this election finish at the constituency, so that you have 290 returning, those returning officers 290. What they come to Nairobi is a result from constituencies, where the result from polling stations are put together. So in Nairobi, you won't be knowing the president the same night, because usually they start counting the president's vote. So the same night, you know who has gotten in 25% in 24 counties, and you know who has 50% plus one. Before Nairobi announces, you already know what they are going to announce. That's what must happen. And that is why people need to ask the IEBC to, in my opinion, they should not contest that. If they really intend to be transparent, if they intend to be independent, they have no business contesting the constituency, the collated results from polling stations at the constituency being final. Because also, they have no capacity to verify anything. The ballots from the polling station, after counting, they are sealed in bunches of 50. And then they put them in envelopes, sealed. They are delivered at the constituent tallying center. They are not delivered to Nairobi. So what are these people supposed to verify? And then what the few people are verifying is something which was counted publicly. You remember the constituent tallying center, they have bond. They say polling station here is 200 or whatever. If you are there from that polling station, you can object right there. And if there is a problem, you can open the envelope and count physically. Nairobi, you can't do that. So this idea of the overall returning officer in Nairobi telling us they are verifying, it makes no sense. And I don't know why the country has tolerated that from 2013. You see, the problem also is in dishonesty among the candidates. Every candidate wants to steal the election. So they clearly allow ambiguity in the law to facilitate bad behavior. But if you love your country and you want to cultivate the peace we have had since independence, you know, we may be poor, but we are peaceable. You can be poor in your poverty is fantastic. Because the misery, trust me, in a violent situation, you don't want to see that. It's intendedly. We should insist that we get the leaders we want.
Prof, you've just highlighted or just stated that there is a lot of dishonesty, especially coming from both political class. Everybody wants to steal the election. And with that, then we look at other decisions that have followed now with regard to the results, who verifies what, the relevance of the National Tallying Center in Nairobi, which based off the law does not make sense. I'm just asking a simple question, Prof. With what has been happening with our election, does it mean that Kenya has not experienced a free and fair election? Actually,
the short answer is no. We had a free and fair election in 2002. But after the new constitution, which really clarified things election a lot, Deliberately Raila avoided, because I don't think the late Raila Odinga and his lawyers, they are so foolish that they never ran Article 138 and Article 86. Because that shouldn't have told them where the election should end.
Yeah.
And they allowed in Nairobi to be the place to conclude the election. And that is because we have been having one consistent candidate who actually never wanted to be president. Because I don't believe they never saw those two articles.
Yeah.
They must have seen them. These are intelligent people. So, in deliberately allowing those articles to remain that way, knowing too well the presidency controls IMBC. Okay? Because the president has been controlling IMBC since 2013. Because also, when they structured the IMBC Act, okay, they did not key in the provision to protect the institution from president. Because the moment they made the president the appointing authority for both the panel and the commissioners, the IMBC basically became the executive. They should have created something equivalent to the Judicial Service Commission, which will recruit out there. Then he sent a fixed number of commissioners to the president for appointment without option of him rejecting anyone, because the president is always a participant. So they did not do that, but having failed to do that, though, since 2013, because the primary competitor was always the late Raila Odinga, should have been able to see, together with his lawyers, that the law is clear here, that this election should end in the constituency, because that's how you enhance transparency. And then once it ends in the constituency, Nairobi has no choice but to announce the winner.
And it'll be very clear.
Kenyans would have already known who the winner is.
It sounds crazy that I have to ask this last question, but then how do you get folks to actually obey the law?
Well, we don't get them because we can't live like this. The country will crash. Without fidelity to the constitution and the rule of law, then you really don't have a country. Now we don't want that. Because we don't want that, we are going to make sure that we have leaders who obey the law. That incident you are citing there, we are going to make sure that incident is history. It will have to happen. You remember, the GNC uprising was organic. Because nothing, you see, once Raila crossed over, they realize they have no leader now to work for them. That is why that organic uprising came. That consciousness, it is still there. And I can tell you this. You see where we are now as a country is like an organ, is like a human being with the cancer, stage 4. Okay? If you are with the cancer stage 4, you are going to die, stage 5. Now, when you know the cure, you prevent that from happening. The peace you are seeing now is because people think they will actually change this government during the election. If for some reason the thing is not done transparently, you understand? In a way to satisfy people that, look, we tried, but the other Kenyans also have a right to have their leaders they want, then you are looking at actual revolution.
Indeed.
You are looking at a very serious situation, because this country is not Tanzania and it's not Uganda. This is a country whose DNA is resistant to bad governance. And it has been consistent from the British to Kenyatta, to Moi, even to Uhuru. There was a lot of resistance against. And now, so you can't do a Tanzania here and get away with it. It's not possible.
Professor Gitile Naituli, thank you for being here with us this morning. Some of the gems that have dropped, definitely ones that we can hold on to. Looking forward to a time whereby the rule of law will be respected and obeyed. Asante sana. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.